Hi gang, hi gang, hi, oh my god, hi gang. You can tell this is like the 50th intro take. Last week, I put out onto my social media channels this. To my fellow artists, I'm putting together YouTube of advice I'd give a budding artist or struggling artist wanting to get more exposure on their work, and as a result, more work. I have accumulated 10 of the most popular questions asked, or what I thought were very good questions that when I was struggling as an artist, I really would have liked the answers to. We're gonna just go straight into it. Question number 1. Are you fully sufficient off your artwork, or do you have a side income? When I started, yes, I was fully sufficient on my artwork. And I will go into, with the answers to the next questions, how I went about that. Am I right now? No. Right now, I have a full-time job, and then I actually draw more than what would be a part-time job, my hours invested in it. And that's how the Idle Bar is still ticking along, it's still doing well. The difference is, this time last year, my plan last year, when the Idle Bar was doing really well financially, was to step back from commissions and become just an exhibition artist. I had a vision for how big I wanted Idle Bar to go, and I don't mean big, like, loads of followers, because I'm standing proof that I have 12,000 followers on my personal page and make zero money off that. I have less than 2,000 followers on my art page, and it was my full-time income at one point. The plan was that I could go anywhere in the world and work anywhere in the world, work my butt off for X amount of months for one exhibition, which would then make me money nicely for a while longer. That's kind of how I wanted 2023 to pan out. It didn't, for unforeseen circumstances that then completely altered my direction. I was fully sufficient the day I decided, the day one video went viral. I did 24 hours, got my teeth right into it, and created my whole business overnight. And from that day, that was my only full-time job. I got into an accident this time last year that gave me nerve damage in my arms, which slowed down the trajectory of where I was going with the Idle Biro. In addition to this, I'd invested a fair bit of money into like some Christmas packages I'd created, and they just didn't do well. I explored a few avenues of how to sell them, as far as quite literally being there on the street in the Christmas markets selling. And it didn't make the money I hoped it would make. At that time, my current bosses saw an opportunity where I would be able to use my creative skills digitally again. I was a filmmaker and content creator before. And so they kind of swept in, offered me a job. But what was really beautiful is they offered me the job off the back of what they'd seen me do with the Idle Biro, and they wanted me to come do that for their company. I'm answering this as an artist, but as it stands, the art is actually my side income. Am I mad about it? No, because sometimes you have to move the goalposts according to factors outside of your control. However, because it's been my full-time job, I feel very qualified in being able to give honest answers from both sides of the fence, if that makes sense. Question number 2. What's your number 1 bit of advice for someone looking to pursue an art career? Don't let small minds dim big dreams. Do not let anyone, including yourself, talk fear into that wild creative idea you have. And the sad part is, I'm not talking about internet trolls, I'm talking about your mum over dinner. They mean well, and they don't want to see you struggle, but everyone who knows someone pursuing an art career immediately doesn't think of artist, they think of struggling artist. It doesn't matter what you want to do, throw the kitchen sink at it, have that big dream first, and then find a systematic way, step by step, that you can do, because you can. Start with that. For some people, it's starting with just buying a canvas. For other people, it's starting with making money to buy that canvas. I cannot recommend this book enough. Show your work. Like, for instance, I highlight bits in all my books I read. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. Steve Jobs. Immediately, the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of it maybe not ending up as you want it to, will be the first and main reason you won't succeed. How did you find your style? There was an artist in my school who painted with a palette knife. She just did one face with a palette knife. And I can like remember it so clearly to this day. It was like with black, blue and white paint. And the thing I liked so much about it was like how chiseled the face looked, even though it wasn't that the model had a chiseled face. I really liked how the lines created, like all these kind of messy lines created then this intricate and very real face. That was my initial inspo. And then I've always been someone who really likes clean lines, no smudging, no shading. And then as a traveller, I always had my suitcase. I was going from country to country. I always had like a big notepad in the bottom of my suitcase, just compressed. And so for me, I was like, naturally, if the papers were to skid, like I didn't like the idea of the pencil smudging. It just like, I don't have OCD, but it's as close as I got to like being triggered with OCD. So that's when I was like, oh, well, whenever I'm like at someone's house, like there's always a biro lying around. So I like the idea of like, oh, why not just use a biro? And they're long lasting. Everyone's got one. They're easy to travel with. So all I need to source in the location I'm in is paper. That is how my style kind of curated. Notice now that I've said it, you'll never see like circle bits with my pen. Question number 4. How did you know this style was your niche? I wasn't looking for a niche. I wasn't looking for a gap in the market. I drew for myself. I remember that first piece I did of James Smith, I just went big. And I was like, fuck it. In my head as well, I just was like, oh, well, I've drawn loads of faces over the years. I hadn't drawn a face in about 2 years, but I knew I could draw a small face. So I was like, why don't I just do something big? Like, I think I just wanted something a bit more like impactful in my life at the time, because I just quit my content creation job. I was unemployed for like a couple of days, and everyone was like, what are you gonna do? Like you have no money. How are you gonna like look for another job? What are you gonna look for? And I was like, I don't know. Like I'd kind of washed my hands with the fitness industry, which is funny because I'm back in it. I was a bit over film at this point because I was tired of working really hard for not much money. All those reasons came together so that actually I only picked up the pen that day because I just wanted some like peace and serenity to be left alone and listen to whatever I want, get lost in it whilst I just draw something like magnificent in my head. It was the perfect unity of like just doing something you're passionate about at a time that the person who saw it was like impressed by it and I guess hadn't seen artwork like that before. It's super cliche. I found my niche by following my passion. Also, hypothetically, let's just say I chose to copy the styles I liked before, which was palette knife art. Like I dabbled in using paint, and do you know what? It was shit. It wasn't my thing. This is the thing, when you try to copy someone else, whilst like it's the highest form of flattery for them, you'll never do it authentically because it's just not you. So stick to that thing, whatever your thing is. Stick to what you're good at, stick to what you enjoy making, because God forbid it does become your job. You gotta do that for life. So make it something you really enjoy. Question number 5, how do you market yourself? Sometimes marketing yourself isn't in the form of like, do you have a website? Do you pay for SEO? It's like, well, okay, how many people do you talk to and how do you naturally slip in your art? Do you gauge, like when you're talking to them, do you pick up on cues that they're really into art or their kids are into art? You try and like, it's like marketing yourself, it's selling yourself, it's like promoting yourself, but authentically when you're talking to people in positions of power, say. Now, whilst you're thinking like, I kind of get what she's saying, but I'm not sure. I did an art piece for someone at my jiu-jitsu school. Another guy saw it and he was like, you should talk to my girlfriend. I speak to his girlfriend, now wife, and she is really good friends with a man who is the head of an art charity at our local hospital. So this all developed about 6 months ago. This is how I secured my art exhibition in the RUH. But as a goodwill gesture, I donated a piece so they could have more money put towards the New Cancer Ward. When I drew that original piece, which is David Bowie, I was drawing it with the expectation of making 2K off that piece. I haven't made 2K. I've gifted it to the hospital, told them they have to put a reserve of that much for no other reason than I do not want a stranger owning my art piece for less than it's worth. So I essentially have done £2,000 of work for free. What that has secured me is potentially 15 grand worth of work. Whilst you have the obvious with content, website, linking it to people, sending it to people, spamming people in the first hour of your reel going up, send it to all your friends, apologize for being annoying, but just ask them to like it just so it tries and picks up an algorithm. But put yourself in networking places and authentically and naturally talk about it. When I'm in the gym, I do talk about my art. When I know someone who's potentially into art, or if they look like they're wealthy. Wealthy people love art. I know that sounds like really opportunist, but mention it, throw it in. I have, from just mentioning my art page to people and genuinely looking, not for help, but like guidance, advice, especially people doing better than me, people who are in real estate. Would you ever sell my art in your house, or would you put it up in your house so that if someone buys it, they can request to keep the piece? It's trying to be smart with like, okay, I could sell one piece online, but where could I potentially sell loads of pieces? Okay, I'm gonna go to big companies, franchises, and try and like sell to them why they need prints of one specific art piece I could do for them, relevant to their company, why they need that print in every one of their offices. If they have that many offices, they can afford that many prints. It's thinking like this, but try and keep it aligned with your work. I wanted to draw a huge lion for a huge publishing house, which a lion is their logo. It didn't end up going through because they wanted something super bright and colourful. However, I pitched them this really magnificent piece. It would have been the biggest piece I've done to date, like huge. And if that was the case, it would have been in their boardroom, with every meeting that's held in their London office in that boardroom, and they're a publishing house. And so think of the people who'd be sitting in that room looking at my art. It's thinking like that. Don't think small, think big, because these people aren't bigger, better, or scarier, or anything like that. They're also normal humans who take shits, who go home, have arguments, scroll Instagram for hours on end. These are also normal people, no different to you and I. So why would they not be interested in your art? And why are you less qualified to pitch your art to them? How do you price and put value on your artwork? Do you know what? I almost wanted to have like a simple like maths equation for this one, because I first calculate how many hours it took me to do that art, and I do not go below minimum wage. It starts that simple. Do I advise that everyone should do that? No. You should all be looking a bit higher. Why? Because you have got mortgages, you have got kids, you have more mouths to feed. I don't. And also, I'm not incentivized by money, which is like, if you think my art's expensive, just know it, like if it was anyone else doing it, it'd be so much more expensive. So firstly, I gauge how many hours I spent on it and what the minimum wage would have been if I'd worked on that. And then, because I do form an attachment to a lot of my work, I think to myself, if I really like the piece, which there are 2 pieces from the Kenyan collection that haven't sold because I made them more expensive than the others, because I didn't want them to sell. I was like, okay, Panya, how much would it cost for you to part with that piece? One's 3,500, which I think is actually worth that amount, but also that's the amount that I would happily let it out of my fingers for. I love my work, I want it on my walls. So try to adopt that attitude of, for me to take it off my wall and give it to you, what amount would I be happy with? Find a middle ground. When someone's asking for like a commission piece that isn't connected to you somehow, so someone's granddaughter or pet, I do have a very basic template of what I charge people. Minimum size, how many faces, and you have to stick to your guns on it as well. Once you do find what your pricing is, don't negotiate, because this isn't about art anymore. This is people skills. If I'm like, it's kind of like maybe like £100, you watching that right now is like, I ain't fucking paying 100 for that. You know there's wiggle room. But if I'm like, oh, that piece, that's 100. That one there, yeah, that's 100. Boom. So they know, okay, that piece is 100. If people take the piss with you, up that fucking price. I'm not going to gauge it on, I'm not putting my value on how rich you are, but I'm putting my value on how much you're going to take the piss. If you're going to take the piss, I actually don't want my art on your walls. You might not be selling any art. You might not have sold one piece yet for any amount. Does not give anyone the right to devalue your work. Question number 7. How did you know the moment you could move from affordable to marking up and it would sell? There was a ex-All Blacks rugby player, now plays for Samoa, client turned friend. The time I knew that I could price up was when he told me, oh, is that all it is? But he paid. He paid for the artwork. I happily sent it. I politely asked him to post it. He did, like post it on his Instagram. That's when I knew, when someone said to me, is that it? And I thought, fuck me, how much more could I have sold this for? And so I'm not from money. I don't have loads of money. So my mentality is set at, we have a class standard, we have a money standard. So mine's kind of where it is. And so sometimes it takes someone richer, more successful, someone doing better to kind of like, be like, oh, I would have expected more. And so I was like, fuck, I've got to level up. You attract what you charge. I sold packs of cards for £25 and some people were like, that's a bit too expensive. I was like, man, I was looking at selling it for more. I don't want my cards to just be like treated like trash cards. I want them to be really like, people put thought into it and be like, oh, I want to give that dog to my mum because she loves these dogs. And oh my God, that penguin, my niece would love that penguin. Like, I like that people put effort and thought into the card that they're picking for that person. Therefore, they're paying for a standard that I can deliver. You can set that for yourself before you even get any clients. The time I started marking up, and then I've tried to set myself a rule that every exhibition I release, then my website prices just go up a fraction. Like literally I work it out as a percentage, like can I make them 5% more expensive now? Question number 8. Where does most of your work come from? Instagram. Instagram, and then as a result of Instagram, word of mouth. I don't think a single exhibition piece has been bought by a buyer standing there and then in the gallery. It's been off the back of people posting stuff, people at the gallery who are like, I think I know someone who'd like this, and then they communicate with them. So it's mostly word of mouth, but a lot of the time that word of mouth is off the back of social media. Number 9, where do you transition from gifting work to then starting to charge? If you're struggling with that and you're like, oh, I'm just gifting, and I know the person who asked this question, stop gifting it to your friends. Your friends, respectfully, doesn't matter how big their following is, you have to be smarter with where you put your free injections. Hypothetically, if it's a clothing line and you do really cool like acid wash with a sick logo, hypothetically, say the person who sent this question does that, instead of putting time into giving it to your friends for free or people nearish by, do legwork to see if you can find out who like Billie Eilish's PA is. I know a guy, I met a guy, Dan Con, he has a shop in Harrods and he basically paints shoes. He recently did some Louboutins. He has a shop in Harrods, London, and a shop in somewhere in Dubai, right? That's his 2 stores, and he flies between them and just does live painting there. And I think the thing that set him off was Billie Eilish. He did a pair of shoes for Billie Eilish, and I'm pretty sure she wore them on the Ellen DeGeneres show. And so that's smart. That was some free work that has launched his career. The other day I wanted a contact at BIC. So I asked my social media and 2 people came forward. Closed mouths don't get fed. Put your ego aside, ask for help. You'd be really surprised. You're not begging for people to give you money and begging for people to buy your art. No, Ask for the contacts. Ask if someone knows this person. Ask if people know people who own gallery spaces. Ask. Closed mouths don't get fed. Question number 10. How did you find your audience, or did they find you? I'm churning out the same story, I feel like, and I've mentioned it a few times, but I really need to like reiterate this. I have been drawing faces for time. I've been doing free work for time. It's not even work. Just draw a piece. I think in uni, my mate wanted to be a local DJ at our like uni events. I created a t-shirt for him with his face on it. I think we like got 10 of them printed and wore them to support him, and it was like the coolest thing ever. My audience wasn't found through that. However, I have authentically, naturally, accidentally created 10 years of content and substance to back why I charge what I charge, to back the brand, to back why I think I'm worthy of this space I've created for myself. But how did my audience find me? They found me because of my first video going viral with, thank you to James Smith, PT, who shared it. He saw the piece on his birthday. I released it on his birthday. Funny story is I drew six faces during my unemployment. And on James Smith's birthday, which my stepsister clocked. So my stepsister's a huge supporter of what I do, of anything I do. And she's quite smart as well, and she's really on it. And she messages me and she was like, dude, I know you wanted to release Malala first. She was like, just a quick one, you know, it's James Smith's birthday on Sunday. And I was like, we both are fans of his. And I was like, I didn't know that. And so I was like, all right, switched it. Sorry, Malala, you're going the week after. So I don't think it would have done as well had I shared it any other day. But I just thought, one, I release it on his birthday. There's already stuff circulating about him. His name's trending. It's his birthday. People are posting him. Just with the power of like 6 degrees of separation, the power of connectivity, I just knew it would get to him because he always talks about how he always like reads all his comments, reads all his messages, really tries to reply to people. It's not a bot, it's him behind his social media. And so it was just the perfect opportunity. And if you want to talk about authenticity, I drew him as part of a collection of influential people in my life, not in the world, in my life. And he was one of those 6 people because I listened to him so much when I first got introduced to him. And I just really liked how he was a normal guy who was expected to conform to society's norms, and thought, nah, fuck it. If you really believe in something, like, go for it, be consistent, expect to get ignored, said no to, and your content not to see anyone's eyes, because if you are consistent enough, you will make a break. Like, it will happen. And so the irony of it all is that is what I'd been doing unknowingly. Drew him, released it on his birthday. It got to him by the evening. He reshares it. I wake up to like 160,000 views on this video. That's how my audience found me. How did they stay is because of all the legwork I'd been doing before, unknowingly collecting all this stuff to then release. Man, no one can tell me like I haven't worked hard to bring it full circle back to the beginning. I have a WordPress somewhere on the big wide web of like my work I was doing, I think even in pencil 10 years ago. Artists, if you're truly passionate about what you're doing, you're already creating loads of art. You're watching this wondering how to make a career out of it, but you already have a huge portfolio. Put it somewhere. One question that wasn't on here, which is my kind of like parting advice, make an intro PDF. If you see this, please comment below and ask, I will send you my intro PDF. Introduce yourself, introduce like what you're about, how you came about to be, and then showcase all your pieces and get references from people. I got James Smith to reference me, I got Lima to reference me, but I also have flexers who have asked to remain anonymous. I know that's such a cop-out thing to say, I actually have, which is like a position I've never been in before. I'm like, okay. Create the PDF so that, like when I was on a train to Paddington and I was sitting opposite a guy who is best friends with the owner of Honest Burger, they have like 16 chains in London. He said, do you have any work you can send me? Because I'll see if he needs any prints in his shop. Albeit, like, fair play, it didn't go ahead. There and then I said, I have something better, I have a PDF. And I send my PDF with a nice kind of, not cover letter, just an intro. Hey, thanks for connecting, da 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 da. And follow up on that. Follow up on every single one. You can do it in bed at night instead of scrolling TikTok. If it's that important to you, you can do it. And so my parting advice from all of that as well is create an intro PDF, include all your art, include the like evolution of your art. It's not a dissertation. It's a nice bite-sized intro into who you are when you can't be in that room to introduce yourself. Instead, it's just a physical asset until you can get in that room to introduce yourself. If you liked this, please like, comment, subscribe. If you have additional questions, feel free to put them in the comments and I'll answer as best as possible. If you're a troll, please do comment. Thank you so much for watching this far. I live for haters. I really do. And so you're wasting your time, but building my algorithm. I appreciate you guys putting these questions in as well. And I really appreciate people who are invested in my art, because it doesn't matter how confident you are, how brave you are, how much self-belief you have in yourself. Hearing it externally from other artists as well, it means so much. And I really try and spend time to invest back to you guys, because we can all win.